just I guess last summer I started working on what turned into Sonobus. Having looked at everything else out there, all the cool stuff you guys have been doing, um, I kind of like saw a few things that I wanted to some maybe holes I wanted to fill, um, in terms of like uh, well, a few of the things are one of the main things I wanted to do was to make a version of this that could be easily used as a plugin. So a plugin in a DAW, cross platform, um, and at the same time, um, because I chose to use a juice based like setup, it was really easy to do the cross platform plugin and standalone app, and like I threw in an iOS version as well because I could, and so even though a lot of people are rarely on Ethernet on Wi-Fi, I mean on iOS, uh, you know you can do it, so I figured what the heck. Um, no, so what I did is I looked around. I looked at Jack Trip and Jamulus and I guess Jam Kazam, some other ones, and and I kind of decided that I didn't want to base it off of any of those. And I actually saw the AOO, which is Audio over OSC, which is another library. It was similar. It had a lot of things that made it easier for me to integrate into something independent. That's kind of why I chose it. And it already had Opus support and PCM, so that's kind of where I started. And I've since diverged a little bit from them. I've forked it, and I haven't fed my changes back yet, and I haven't kept up to date with some of the stuff they've done in the last few months. So that's on my list, my to-do list, to like actually talk to those developers of AOO and feedback the stuff I did. But I just kind of wanted to have a really easy way for people to join groups and it's all peer-to-peer right now, so I don't have any server-based stuff, even though AOO could easily support it. Sonobus itself is just set up for doing peer-to-peer, and that was the other thing that it did. AOO it already did the NAT hole punching stuff. They had a pretty good implementation of that already, so you don't have to do port forwarding necessarily unless there's certain NAT combinations that you want to get around. I don't know if any of you have seen it.
Yeah, there's quite a few people here who use it.
Cool. But yeah, so that was sort of the sequence, and I decided to make a public release in October, November, and so yeah, it's been picking up, I think. Now people are generally complaining about how they can't get the latency as low as they want to, and that's sort of one of the open-ended problems. What is it that needs to be done to actually get the jitter buffer small enough, and if there's anything else going on, so if there's buffering going on that I haven't discovered that is in the way, that is extra, that shouldn't be there, or if it's just a scheduling issue with the network packets, I don't know. But sound quality was kind of my priority at first, so I wanted to make sure that it was easy to have good quality all the time. And yeah, I don't know if there's any kind of direction you want me to talk about, but
I would be actually quite curious to hear your own to hear your opinion about the feedback you get from the users, because there are quite some users who approach me like saying, hey, there's this new called Sonobus, this is just awesome and way better than Soundjack, and so seriously, and you should do this, you should do it exactly how he did it in Soundjack and in Sonobus. And I was saying, hey, good stuff, and but what it interests me is how do you achieve lowest latencies with such a high amount of usability at the same time? Or do you probably figure more on usability at the moment right now, as you say, like in order to have good quality all the time and not necessarily lowest possible latencies?
Right. I mean, I did kind of focus on making sure that it was usable first, and then kind of like dig down and figure out what is it that maybe is holding me back from being quite as low as a lot of these the people that have been using it. I think have come over from Jamkazam because they recently went to like a paid system, and so they're like small groups where they're jamming together, and latency is very important to them, and they basically can't play their music unless the latency is quite low. And so those people are the people that are saying, this is great, I love it, I wish it was just a little bit less latency because otherwise it's awesome. And yeah, so that's what I'm hearing from the users in general. Some people it works okay. It's one of those situations where I'm sure you guys know, like depending on people's network setups, and how close they are, it's okay. It works well enough for them, but other people it's not. But yeah, I guess the UI was the other focus that I wanted to make it really easy and be able to see all the parameters, sort of all in one place for everybody, and be able to change the settings per individual peer. So different jitter buffers for each person and different send qualities for each person, and I wanted to do all the combinations in one place, but still not make it too hard to use. That was my goal. And so now I'll probably like make a mode that hides some of that stuff, even though maybe people like it. Some people find it still kind of distracting.
That would have been my next question. So there are still people who complain about complexity?
I mean, I haven't had too much of that recently, surprisingly. I think they must have just gotten used to it. Just seeing all those numbers and all the meters going all the time. So yeah, if they don't complain about it, I won't change it. But maybe down the line when I actually I may introduce some server mixing based stuff. I've avoided it mainly because I don't want to run those servers. I don't want to pay for those servers. And so then people have to set up their own. And then there's all of that sort of complexity in terms of explaining that to users and all that. So that's why I've kept it peer-to-peer only so far, the main reason.
We have questions from Tom and John.
So I love the user interface. I mean, I think it's absolutely stunning, and the simplicity, the ease of that is great. However, in working with another musician who's about 50 miles away from me, doing 14th century music, our first encounter with Sonobus was just superb, beautiful sound quality, and the latency was not a problem at all. And every time we've tried it since then, it's not had sufficiently low latency to work. And what I'm hearing from you, and this is to say I really appreciate your efforts. It sounds like we need to just keep trying to tweak the network, the parameters. I mean, that's
well, it's interesting that it worked the first time for you guys, but then
superbly,
not
yes.
afterwards. That's
right.
Did I break something? Is it
I
like
don't
a newer
know.
version?
Did we break something? I mean,
yeah, there are just a lot of things that you have to worry about in terms of just making sure that everything is set up just right. But if we at another time, I'd be happy to get on with you guys and see, if it's you or if it's me.
Right. Thanks. That's fine. Well, no, but the interface is just gorgeous, beautiful. Yeah.
Well, thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, and John?
Kudos. I really have enjoyed using Sonobus, and I've had a lot of I've used it locally. Like I regularly use it to play with somebody that's 20 miles away and somebody who's 30 miles away, and we play we play jazz things together. We do open improvisations. I mean, one thing that's really great about it is once you understand the jitter part of it, that you can control how it's coming into you, how people are coming into you, and they can control how they're sending it out. And so a lot of the problems of getting low latency are just kind of playing around with those parameters. It's
right.
But
yeah.
So that took a while to understand. Mainly because I got into the Sonobus user group and you started talking about it, then going, oh, what your commands actually mean.
Right. The defaults I picked weren't necessarily the ones that are going to get you the lowest latency, because I
Right.
wanted to make sure that it worked okay for most people.
But
when
I've
they're first
also
starting.
done sessions from Prague, San Diego, Singapore, and Thailand,
Cool.
which actually sounded really good, And the other thing that I really love about it is that you can, I mean, it's a strange place to be, a virtual room, right? I mean, you're trying to mimic a sonic space, right?
Right.
And I found on all the platforms, you have to get used to the sonic space to play in it. It's like, as a musician, you learn to play to the room, and a virtual room is another room you need to be able to kind of like play into. And I liked Alexander's explanation about what your expectation about how inside of those rooms, about latency and stuff. And if I found if you had everybody try to play together, like off a metronome, it's a disaster.
Right.
Almost on any latency. But if you relax and try to play the sound that's in the room, you can kind of almost game. It's a conceptual thing of you learning to be into that groove. Now, obviously, it's not going to be a complete. It's everyone's is only hearing what they're hearing at that moment, right? It's if you recorded 4 versions of it, it would be all a little bit different because of where you're sitting at in the world. But in the end, you can actually get some great rhythm going along. So, but the other thing that I wanted to say about your program was having the ability to put a little compression on, having the ability to put a little EQ on, creates a much richer room to be inside of. So it feels more comfortable to play music in a room that sounds good.
Right.
So,
yeah. If your people are actually using it, I don't know who actually has used those, but I guess you are. So that's good.
no, I definitely.
I haven't gotten much feedback on that part.
No, I love it. I put on a little, depending on what the instrument is, I'll add some compression, just to make the sound, because you can make, you have those tools are great. And when I play with people, I run through them all. I say, here these things are, check them out because they actually make a difference, to the sound. Anyway, so I'm a big fan of Sonobus, especially in the 3 and 4 user range.
Sure.
I haven't gotten past that. I don't know what it would be if you had 8 to 10. No idea.
I did it the other day when I opened like the public group feature, I guess a week ago or something. So now, it's interesting. But some of the people on the Discord channel, they had like a group with 10 people. And I just jumped on to see what it would be like with, 10-person peer-to-peer. It's interesting, but it actually worked okay. Like, and we were even sending 16-bit PCM stereo, and for most people it actually was holding up, which is pretty impressive for networking.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all from you.
Cool.
Yeah, it sounds like there's so many more questions. We have Andrew and Mike O'Connor.
Yeah, so because I've used both of these products, and I think they're really interesting to compare to each other because they're both largely peer-to-peer and they have like similar levels of complexity. Like a few of the things that Sonobus, I think when it came out, we were all stunned by was really like the warm fuzzy feelings that it gives when you first launch it and first try it is like the interface is very like smooth and modern looking with nice round buttons, and especially in a realm like this where there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of doubt and a lot of these kind of things, I honestly think that has a way bigger impact in just having people accept it immediately compared to Jack Trip, compared to Sound Jack, compared to a lot of the other ones, Jamulus too, right? Like it's not as nicely rounded around the edges. And I think it's brilliant to give defaults that are going to err on the side of a higher quality sound compared to low latency. Right. Because when you hear the high quality sound come over, that also gives you that like, I've just connected, like, and no clicks, no pops, no static.
Right. Just having it be able to like just press connect and you're like instantly talking to someone at high quality is that like that was sort of what I was going for. I wanted to like keep it that as minimal as possible. Like you start the app, you connect, and that's it. So
That
that
almost
was
follow
worked
up?
in
skeptical.
reverse for me
Yeah.
because I was like, why does this work so well?
Yeah, you're like skeptical of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just I think like there are little usability things like in the interface, like the visualization of the jitter buffer and the auto feature for the jitter buffer is like it tells a story. The impulse driven latency response with the click click that
Yeah, right.
tells a story is like a really nice thing for like, testing your latency. And auto connecting to everyone in the room also just feels like one of those things where you enter the room and it's just like, boom, I'm connected, right? But the apps are like similar complexity and they have all the same levers and knobs and things. So I think that's why it's like, and Soundjack has more levers and knobs and has the hub server mode and all these things and video, like, but it's that way that it's wrapped together to give that feeling on first use.
Can I follow up on that question? Because I was really curious about the fact that you have implemented that in Juice. Is this right? And I was wondering if these are like standard components GUI wise, or is it something? I was
Yeah,
just
the
wondering
GUIs
how you did. Yeah.
the GUI's all pretty standard juice. Yeah, you can tweak with the colors and some of the styles a little bit, but yeah, I didn't do too much of that. Just the colors.
Because I was thinking, oh my God, that is extremely quickly the way how they implemented that. So that was so, but it's a standard thing. Okay, very interesting because I have never done anything with Juice, and that seems to be a very interesting alternative technology besides the classical C++ and all that stuff which we have been doing here.
Right. I mean,
If
it's just a C++
yeah.
library basically.